and bring on our next storyteller, who is author and a lot of other things, Nicholas Conley. Nicholas, welcome to True Tales Radio.
Wow, thank you for having me.
Right, and your first time telling a story tonight, correct?
That's
First time telling one here, and
yes, this is my first time on True Tales.
Right. Have you done other storytelling?
Well, I've done book reading events and that sort of thing, but this is the first time where it's just dedicated to just a true story that I have.
Okay, and what motivated you to come over and tell your story tonight?
Well, it's essentially the same motivation that has inspired a lot of my work recently, which is that I've always been passionate about writing, and it's been my passion since before I could ride a bicycle. But some years ago, I began working in healthcare, specifically with Alzheimer's patients and people with traumatic brain injuries and that sort of thing. And that inspired my last book, which is called Pale Highway. And as a result of seeing people in nursing homes and with Alzheimer's, I felt this passion for speaking out more about that and bringing more awareness to what people in that condition go through on a daily basis. So my story today is related to my actual experience in that line of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and if you want to just a little bit more background for folks back there. You are a writer.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a writer, healthcare worker, traveler, and coffee obsessive.
Yeah, I've got all those things down here, plus a couple more.
Yeah, the basics there. Writing, as I said, writing is something I've always been hugely passionate about, and then working in healthcare also. And then I love traveling, and coffee is impossible not to love as well. So.
And you were a writer first before you went into the healthcare
correct,
field. Yeah. And what drew you to healthcare?
Well, basically what started it is that writing, when I started writing, which was when I was 6, but when I started pursuing it professionally at 18, I needed to have a day job of some sort. So I tried various different things, and I was moving across the country at different times, trying a lot of different fields. And what I realized at some point is if I was going to have something I did as a day job, quote unquote, I wanted it to be something that actually mattered, that made a difference in people's lives. So I started looking around and I really want to work with Alzheimer's patients. I'm going to see what this is like. And at the time, I wanted to do it for that reason, but I had no idea how passionate I would become about that issue after starting it.
At what point? Was there a point where suddenly there was a switch thrown and you said, oh, I want to not only work with these patients, but I want to write about them. I want to make them sort of the source for my material?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't my intention to begin with to even write about that, but it was at some point I was just... working with them, I noticed the kind of dearth of Alzheimer's-related literature and media, and that when it was released, it always was told from the perspective of someone, like a family member of the Alzheimer's patient or what have you, and nothing ever written from the perspective of someone with Alzheimer's and what they were going through. And I felt like the stuff I had seen never quite captured what the experience is like for people in nursing homes and the kind of difficulty they endure while they're losing their mental facilities and so on.
Right. And your next book is about...
traumatic. Well, so basically, this was, again, not intentional. It's just because I happened to start working with people with traumatic brain injuries afterward. And then at some point, as I was writing this, I didn't even intend it to be about that at the beginning, but I just realized, okay, there's a book about a traumatic head injury. That's got to go along with that. And I feel like it definitely works because I'm talking about another subject I'm experienced in and care about and want to bring more awareness to.
Right. Do you feel that... you have a calling to tell the stories of people who perhaps can't tell their own?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's just such an important thing that doesn't get enough awareness, and it's just people who are in these conditions often have a difficulty, and just like you said, they can't really get it out themselves a lot of the time because these injuries, because they're mental, make it very difficult for them to communicate those stories. So I feel like it's something people should know and be aware of, and it's important to get out there.
Right. So it's almost when people read your books, you hope that it's just more for the it's beyond the entertainment value.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's when I had an article published on Vox in August of last year, and what just blew me away was within the week after it was on there, I just had this huge amount of emails coming in from people who had a family member with Alzheimer's, or this one woman with Alzheimer's, just saying thank you for writing this, because people aren't saying this and putting these opinions out there. So I definitely feel a calling towards that.
Right. Yeah. And if there was something, while we're here and while you've got the listeners' attention, if there was something that you'd like to convey to the listeners about Alzheimer's patients and people with traumatic brain injuries, what would it be?
Well, I guess the most important thing is recognizing that they're human beings more so than patients, because there's sort of one of the things that always would bug me the most is when people will sort of talk over someone who has a brain injury or Alzheimer's or what have you, because they usually can hear it even if they can't respond to it. And you notice that when you work around people enough. And it's important to recognize there is a human being there. They might have difficulty communicating or conveying things, but that is a person who deserves the same basic rights and respects and recognition that anyone else does.
Good. Yeah. Well, now, various biographies describe you, and you pointed me in the direction of several of these, so
Yeah.
It's no one to blame but you on this one.
Okay.
Describe you as a traveler, a truth seeker, a sarcastic idealist, and a coffee addict. We can knock these off one at a time. The traveler part?
Okay, so I mean, I started getting really into traveling when, first of all, I moved all over the country when I was a kid, but I didn't like traveling until I was in high school in North Carolina. And right after high school, I decided, you know what, I want to move to LA. I want to see the whole country. So like on New Year's Eve, I just took off in a car and spent like some time driving from state to state, exploring the whole country, just kind of zigzagging back and forth. And then since then, I've now, like, my fiance and I just went to Morocco last December, and then we were in Jamaica some months before that. And it's just, I love traveling because you get to really experience other cultures firsthand in this amazing way.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to Truth Seeker. How are you a truth seeker, and how does it impact your writing in your life?
Okay, so let's see. I guess basically I'm always in pursuit of I don't think that human beings can necessarily grasp the entire full truth of the entire universe, like exactly, but it's important to kind of reach toward it and try to find some understanding of what matters, what we need to do, what our place is, and what our role is in the universe and in human life, and how to be kind to other human beings and moral and that sort of thing. So I'm always trying to fulfill that goal to the best of my ability. And writing and healthcare tends to be the ways I pursue that the most.
Great. Okay. What is a sarcastic idealist?
Okay. So I guess the best way I can describe it is I go into any situation with this sort of mantra of hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So I don't necessarily assume that situations will turn out to my liking. And the way that I've heard various people, I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, so I'm from a big family. And I've heard people describe the way we interact as seeming negative at first, but it's actually very idealistic and positive. It's just done with kind of a sarcastic slant of, yeah, that's probably not going to work, but we'll probably pursue it anyway and hope that it works out. So,
okay, yeah, I thought it was something like, right, world peace, that'll happen.
All right, yeah, I mean, it's essentially like, you can't assume it will happen, but it's good to pursue the goal even while sarcastically diminishing the possibility.
Okay, and, for those of you listening at home, because, we're a descriptive medium.
Right.
He is a coffee addict or enthusiast or aficionado, whatever word you like.
Yeah.
And just for those folks at home, in his right hand, right at this moment. Now, are you a coffee addict as in the stereotypical struggling writer making pot after pot of black coffee as he, writes deep into the night? Or like kind of coffee aficionado, as you can tell us countless ways to enjoy the brew at every coffee establishment within a 50-mile radius?
Okay, I guess you could say both, depending on the scenario and what I have going on. If I'm in the middle of writing a novel, it's definitely like pot after pot of coffee. But if I'm more relaxed, I'm checking out the local coffee shops and trying different ways of brewing it and stuff. it just was. I mean, it was I think when I was a kid, I saw coffee as like the gateway to adulthood or something. So I was always sneaking cups of coffee, and I would get up early in the morning just to sneak cups of coffee, and it was just instant coffee. But it began a lifelong obsession that has lasted to this day.
Okay, and your biography also alludes to the lifelong habit of wearing Hawaiian shirts. Listeners at home, he did not disappoint.
Nope, every day for years and years.
Okay, now on award shows, if you listen to the red carpet shows, they always are describing the fashions.
Yeah.
So you want to describe for our listeners, like, how many of these do you have?
Well, it's at various times it's been more, right? I think I own probably about 20, but I get new ones and get rid of old ones and so on. I mean, I've had many, many Hawaiian shirts, and I'm actually somewhat selective with the ones I keep. But what I've found is that everyone you meet owns a lot of Hawaiian shirts that they're trying to get rid of. So you find that someone's like, oh, I got all these Hawaiian shirts. They're like 4XL, so I don't need it. You could have it. You wear these, right? And it's like, well, I don't know. Let me see it. So you never know. But I've been wearing them since I think I started wearing them when I was about 15, and I've been wearing them since.
Okay. And like we said, you are a first-time storyteller tonight. We don't want to go into your story, but what made you choose this to be your first story? Or
what made me choose this one was, first of all, I thought about the theme of frontiers, and I've thought of a lot of different, it relates to my experience working in the Alzheimer's unit of a nursing home. And I thought of a few different possibilities I could go with, but there was one story in particular and one particular resident that I took care of that really grabbed my attention and felt very fitting towards the theme and had a huge impact on my life. So,
okay, great. We look forward to hearing that story and want to thank Nicholas and Craig for being with us tonight, being
Thank
our
you.
interview subjects. You can go back outside and join the other storytellers out on Soundstage 909 as we get ready to transition to Catherine Tucker Wyndham.